tonight I am going to make vegan mushroom stroganoff. So if you're looking for something that's vegan, if you're looking for something that's Daniel fast friendly, this is great, but it's also a one pot meal, so it's super simple and it tastes really good, and it's kind of cold outside tonight, so it tastes really good. So I'm gonna start with the onion. So it's a medium onion, small onion. So I've got kind of a big onion here that I've already peeled because I used it for something else. So a good way to dice onions really well, you slice it in half first. Then what I did was cut each one all the way down, and now I turn the onion and chop the other way. And then I have diced onions without the effort. And did you know that if you store your onions in the refrigerator or soak them in water prior to cutting them, that you don't have to deal with crying eyes? So I just put a little splash of water in here, a little too much. So just a little water in the pan. We're gonna turn our heat up to medium, and then we will add our onion there. Since I didn't preheat it, it won't sizzle right away, but we'll know it's warm enough once it starts sizzling a little bit. I'm gonna cut a little bit more onion because that's quite a small onion. So a couple more slices. So all my onions are diced up. The recipe says bigger pieces, but I kind of like the smaller ones. And then I'll take the spoon and kind of break it up so they're not in big chunks. Meanwhile, while that is warming up, I'm going to go ahead and cut my mushrooms. I've already rinsed them off. So the recipe calls for like baby ones. These are kind of medium size, basic ones that I got at the grocery store, and I'm like generously slicing them so they're super thick slices. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice them all up so that they will be ready. I love this cutting board. I got it at a Container Store. It's super thin, it's flexible, so when it's time to put stuff, I can cut it all there, and then it bends so I can aim it into my pot without losing my pieces everywhere. So the onions, we're gonna cook until they're translucent. I always think the house smells really good with cooked onions. It just gives it a nice warm flavor. And don't forget, when you're cutting, don't put your fingers out like this. You're gonna get them cut. Bend your fingers like this and run the blade against your knuckles, and you won't cut your fingers. Very important. All right. These mushrooms are almost done. I can feel the heat from the onions. More mushrooms to go. So the mushrooms are kind of the bulk of the this stroganoff, but you're welcome to replace it with veggies. But because this is with meat. But because this is a one pot, it needs to be pre-cooked meat. So the onions are starting to sizzle a little bit. So we will let them keep warming up. So the other ingredients I have, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about that. Vegetable broth. This can right here, I've poured it in before, is about 4 cups. So, and it'll tell you on the side of it. So serving size 1 cup, servings per container about 4. So this recipe actually calls for 4 cups. So we'll just use the whole box. And the beauty of this doesn't expire until a year from now. So if you want to have just a stash of this, it's a good basics to have. We are going to add nutritional yeast. I had to find this at a Whole Foods. I don't know if they have it at a regular grocery store. You can try. But it's basically a powder. They say sometimes it can be a substitute for cheese. I don't know about that, but for the sake of this stroganoff, it's pretty good. And there's a lot of nutrients in it. So if you look at the label, there's a whole bunch of nutrients in there. So that's really good. We are also going to add a little fresh ground black pepper. So I just keep my pepper in one of these things so I can grind it when I'm ready. We're going to cook it all, and then at the end, it calls for cashew butter. I don't have cashew butter today. I have peanut butter. But if you're wanting to go healthy, go with whole butter and not your general peanut butter that you're going to see your Jiffy, because if you look at the label, there's lots of sugar. So if you're looking at the label and you're seeing peanuts, if you're seeing almonds, if you're seeing cashews and nothing else in there, that's really good for this. And then it also calls for fresh lemon juice. Well, I don't usually have lemons on hand. So in the produce aisle, you can buy lemon juice and lime juice in these little plastic containers that look like lemons or limes. And I just keep it in my fridge. So it is, and the expiration date goes way out. So when you need just a little bit of lemon juice, it's great. So I'm gonna keep stirring these onions a little bit. They're not quite translucent, but they're getting really close. Also in this recipe is 4 cups of pasta. So ideally you're gonna get like a pinna pasta, rotini, one of those little pieces. I'm out of it, so what I have right now is spaghetti noodles. I'm gluten-free, so these are gluten-free noodles. The shape isn't quite right for this dish, but it's pasta, so I'm gonna make it work. So the onions are getting close. So we're going to add almost everything to the pot right now. So I don't really want super long spaghetti noodles. So I'm going to break them, I think in thirds. And yes, the noodles are going in raw. So this is the beauty of a one pot. You don't have to cook the noodles in a separate dish and then have 2 pots dirty. It's harder than I thought. So that's about 4 cups of pasta. So I'm going to add the mushrooms. And what I'm discovering too much in the pot. So hold that pot. I have a bigger pot. So I guess I will be washing 2 pots tonight since I misjudged my size. But this way I don't have to worry about stuff going everywhere. So we are going to add all 4 cups of the vegetable broth. And since this is already pre-measured, we don't have to measure it out. We'll just pour the whole thing in. And then, let's see. For nutritional use, we're gonna need 2 tablespoons of it. So I've got my tablespoon thing here. Scoop out 2. I'm gonna kind of spread it out because I want it to mix through. And this is crazy, but this ingredient right here with the peanut butter will make it taste like what you're used to tasting if you've had stroganoff before. And yeah, this pasta is definitely not. You hear it crunching as I'm stirring it. So I am going to hit pause on the video right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring it to a boil. And once it's boiling, so the liquid's bubbling, then I'm going to turn the temperature down to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. And during all of that, we'll stir it occasionally because we don't want it to stick. And we don't want things to clump up. So I will come back once we are finished with those 10 to 15 minutes of simmering.